everyone, welcome back to my channel, Everyone's Books and Tea. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. We are about halfway through August, and that means we are getting very close to fall. So I thought today would be a great day to look at the new releases coming out this fall, and I'm gonna let you know the 8 books that I am most excited for this fall. So I've been looking through all the different new releases that are coming out this fall over the last couple of weeks, and once I finalized my list of 8, I realized that this is a very fantasy heavy list, which probably is because I'm excited for fall, and fall is a great season to read fantasies in. So that being said, while this list is very fantasy heavy, there is a ton of different subgenres on this list within kind of the fantasy realm. So we're not just going to go over books that have to do with fairies or with kingdoms. There's going to be a good mixture in here. So let's get to our first book. So it's fall now, and what does fall mean? It means that school is back in session. And what better way to kick off the school season than reading a book about academia? Dark academia, to be exact. The book is An Academy for Liars. It's written by Alexis Henderson, and it's being released this fall on September 17th. It's a dark academia, gothic horror vibe type book. It follows the main character, Lennon Carter, who has just received a mysterious phone call inviting her to take an entrance exam for a school of magic. So the school she'll be attending if she passes this entrance exam is Drayton College, which is located, well, not located, but hidden in the city of Savannah, I assume Georgia. So the reason that Lennon is getting invited to the school is she has this innate ability of persuasion, which she can use to control others. And after she passes her exam, her studies at Drayton will teach her how to use this ability that she has. Upon arriving at Drayton College, she just falls in love with it. She loves her studies, she loves the campus. Most importantly, what captivates her the most is her charismatic mentor, Dante, who she is both intimidated and enthralled by. But of course, it can't be as easy as just attending magical school. No. Instead, as Lennon learns to control her gifts of persuasion, she also starts to realize that there's more about the secret world of Drayton College than she had known. She uncovers this disquieting history of Drayton College, and she starts to find out the way her mentor's tragic and violent past intertwines with it. And last of all, it seems that the ultimate test for the college is to embrace absolute power without succumbing to corruption. And this is a test that Lennon is not sure that she will pass. So I absolutely love books set in a academia setting, especially if it has to do with like a magic school. So I am definitely excited to try this one out. I haven't read any books by this author before. She's best known for The Year of the Witching and House of Hunger, so it seems like she kind of writes in the horror fantasy genre. But this one is definitely going to be added to my list. I actually already have the ARC copy of it, which I'm hoping to read at the beginning of September. The only thing that I wish for this book is that it did not have a bug on the cover. I feel like lately there have been so many books released with bugs on the cover, but I'm sure the bug has something important to do with the plot, and I'll find that out when I read it. So moving on to our second book, we're going to move on from the dark academia magic school setting and instead go into the dark academia out in the field, out in the real world setting. So this is a book that's also coming out on September 17th, and the blurb is a sharp-tongued folklorist must pair up with her academic rival to solve their mentor's murder in this lush, enthralling sapphic fantasy romance. So I don't know about you guys, but I feel like ever since the release of Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, which I absolutely love, it's probably one of my favorite books that I read this year, there has been this kind of new subgenre that has been created that has to do with academic rivals in the fantasy world. Last season, back in summer, I had on my new release list the Ornithologist Field Guide to Love, which was another academic rivals, and now we have the one on our fall list, which is called A Dark and Drowning Tide by Alison Saff, who's the author of A Farweiler Magic and A Fragile Enchantment, which is actually on my August TBR. I haven't gotten to it yet, so I don't know how to feel about her as an author quite yet. Again, though, I will say I loved Encyclopedia of Fairies, and I enjoy the academic rival part of it, so that's why I've decided to add this book to my fall TBR list. Plus, look at the cover. The cover is just beautiful. How could you not add this to your TBR? So this book follows Lorelei Caskell, who is a folklorist who's been set on this expedition with 6 eccentric nobles in search of a fabled spring. The spring promises this untold power which the king wants to harness to secure his reign of Brunestad. Lorelei, though, wants to use this trip as an opportunity to make her dream come true, which is to become a naturalist and be able to travel to all the different places that she's only ever read about. But then tragedy strikes, and her beloved mentor is killed upon the ship, murdered to be exact. The suspects are her 5 remaining crewmates, and each has their own motive for wanting her mentor dead. The only person that Lorelei is absolutely sure is innocent is her longtime academic rival, of course, and that is the insufferably gallant and maddeningly beautiful Sylvia von Wolf. Now that her mentor is dead, Lorelei has also been promoted to being in charge of this expedition, and she must find the spring before the killer strikes again. And not only must she contend, with the dangers aboard the ship, there's also other dangers that are surrounding her too, from the forests that rearrange themselves at night, to the rivers with dragons underneath, to shape-shifting beasts out for blood. And now, of course, she has to work with her academic rival to uncover the truth, all while resisting their growing feelings for each other and discovering that the professor has some secrets of her own. So funnily enough, India Holton, who wrote the Ornithologist's Field Guide to Love, did a blurb for this book as well. And she says, reading A Dark and Drowning Tide is like being immersed in a fairy tale. Alison Staff writes beautifully, and she fearlessly explores powerful themes in this compelling magical novel, infused with folklore and woven through with a sapphic rivals-to-lover romance that will leave you breathless. It's dark academia fantasy perfection. So I am definitely looking forward to this one. And like I said, I love the dark academia vibe. I love this rival academics. And I already have a pre-order in for this one. So I'm looking forward to adding it to a future TBR of mine. So now we're going to move on from the dark academia scene and into a whole different genre of fantasy. And that is the supernatural, paranormal, mystery subgenre. So fall is not only the start of school, we also have the month of October in fall. We have the spookiness, the paranormal, and all the mysterious happenings around Halloween. So what better time to read a darkly humorous supernatural mystery by the author of the Record Shop Mysteries and the Brooklyn Murder Mysteries that is releasing 2 days before Halloween on October 29th. And the book that we are talking about is A New Lease on Death by Olivia Black. So have you ever wondered what it would be like to solve a mystery with a ghost as a partner? Well, look no further, because this book is going to let you know. So main character Ruby Young has just moved into her new Boston apartment that comes, with all its usual things. Heat that barely works, a malfunctioning buzzer, noisy neighbors, and of course a ghost. Yeah, a ghost. Cordelia Graves died in Ruby's apartment a few months ago. And since that time, she has kept residency in this apartment, and despite being bored out of her skull and frustrated by her new roommate. So when Ruby and Cordelia's across the hall neighbor ends up murdered outside the apartment building, Cordelia is convinced that there is more to the story, and she is determined to solve this mystery and bring the killer to justice. There's only one problem. She's dead herself. She needs some help. She needs a sidekick. So she's going to have to enlist the help of her obnoxiously perky living tenant of her apartment, Ruby. So Ruby's 20, annoying, hasn't met a houseplant she couldn't kill, but she can do everything Cordelia can't, like interview suspects or research their neighbor at the library. So the roommates end up forming this unlikely friendship, and as they get closer to the truth about Jake's death, they also find out some other secrets as well. So this is actually the first book of a brand new series by Olivia Black called The Supernatural Mysteries that follow, I assume, Ruby and Cordelia throughout the book as they solve different mysteries around their apartment building in the town. So this just sounds like a fun, quirky, supernatural mystery that is perfect to read curled up around the fireplace on those cool October nights. I'm hoping that I enjoy it so I can go on to read the rest of the series, because the darkly humorous supernatural mystery genre is always a fun one to read. So I'm hoping this one will continue that trend. All right, on to book 4. So, one of my favorite places to travel in the world is Scotland. I love the beautiful scenery, the crumbling castles. It's just a really great place to visit, and I would go back there again and again. So, that is why this next book is being put onto my fall TBR list. It's the blurb that ended up getting my attention, and the blurb said that this is an enemies to lovers romance with a spooky twist where two feuding writers end up on a writer's retreat together at a haunted castle in Scotland. So you got writers, you got a writer's retreat, you got enemies, and to tie it all up, it's taking place in a haunted castle in Scotland. What more could you ask for a fall romance with a spooky twist? So this book by Colby Wilkins follows two feuding authors, Penelope Skinner and Neil Storm. So several months ago, Penelope threw a book at Neil, and since that incident occurred, she's been a publishing pariah and hasn't been able to write a word since. So to help her over this slump, her friend, being a good friend, invites her to a writer's retreat, which is set in a supposedly haunted Scottish castle, so she seizes that opportunity. But Neil, he's also decided to attend this retreat. So Neil is not thrilled about being trapped in this castle with this frustratingly adorable woman who threw a book at him, but also unleashed a case of self-doubt when she called his bestseller a book without a soul. But now the retreat has begun, and the two authors find themselves trapped in a real-life ghost story. They're stuck together in the castle, and a truly shocking, almost kiss has them rethinking their feelings about each other. But if they can't stop the ghost pursuing them, they may never have a chance to find out their true feelings. So this is the author's debut novel. It sounds like a fun, cozy romance with a paranormal twist to it, and it feels like it'll be the perfect read for October, which is good because it comes out on October 15th. So there you have it. A spooky enemies to lover romance mashed up with a cozy horror. What more could you ask for in October? Well, one thing you could ask for is a very unique romantasy book. So it's time to move on from ghosts, and now we are going to a world of magical artifacts and fantastical beings in this next book, which is called Bull Moon Rising, and it is by Ruby Dixon, who is best known for her Ice Planet Barbarian series, which I actually have never read. So this is book 1 in her brand new series called Royal Artifactual Guild. So I enjoy stories with magical artifacts, and stories involving guilds could be interesting. And then when you add this colorful book cover featuring a woman and a fantastical creature that has a head like a bull, it kind of got me intrigued. Now, this is a steamy romantasy, so keep that in mind as well if you decide to go ahead and put this on your TBR list. All right, so where to begin with this book? So let's start with one of the main characters, Aspeth Honorai, who is a holder's daughter whose father has gambled away all their magical artifacts of the family, and now her family is in danger of losing their hold and their heads if anyone finds out the truth. So Aspeth decides to do something about it, and she wants to join the Royal Artifactual Guild, who are the adventurers who explore ancient underground ruins to retrieve the coveted arcane items. But there's one big problem of her plan, and that is the guild won't let her train because she is a woman. The best way around this is for her to find a chaperone of some kind, and the best way to do that is to marry someone who will let her become an apprentice. And who better to marry than a Shirley Guild member who requires a favor of his own? He happens to be a Minotaur who is her teacher, and he's about to go into a rut. Not quite sure what that means in this context. He also doesn't know that Elspeth is a noble and will want nothing to do with her if he discovers her real identity. So now that she has this figured out, Elspeth just has to pass the guild test, thwart a fortune hunter, and save her hold while surviving a rut with her monstrous horned husband, who she might also be falling in love with. So still unsure about this book, here's what Allie Hazelwood has to say. What really drew me in is a beautiful, poignant story of found family in which two outcasts team up to take on a broken system and fall in love in the process. This better be the first in a whole series because I am obsessed with everyone. Full Moon Rising is simply glorious, and Reuben Dixon and The Sacred Knot have my whole heart. So there you have it. We have a romantasy, a colorful cover with sprayed edges, and a world of magical artifacts. This book is coming out on October 15th as well. Alright, so let's take a break from all the fantasy books coming out this fall and go in a different direction. A historical fiction middle grade book direction. So this book is a middle grade book, but it's written by one of my favorite historical fiction authors, and that is Ruta Sepetys, alongside a well-known non-historical fiction writer for the middle grade / young adult age group, and that is Steve Scheitgen. And on top of that, this book also covers one of my favorite historical topics, and that is Bletchley Park and the World War II codebreakers. So I had to add this one to the list. So this is the Bletchley Riddle. It comes out on October 8th, and it's a middle grade historical adventure book that follows two siblings at Bletchley Park, the home of the World War II codebreakers, as they try to unravel a mystery surrounding their mother's death. So like I said, I find stories on Bletchley Park kind of fascinating to read. The last book I read on this topic was The Rose Code by Kate Quinn, and I absolutely loved it. So the Bletchley Riddle starts off in the summer of 1940 and follows 19-year-old Jacob and his younger sister Lizzie, who just love solving puzzles, love solving riddles. So the siblings find themselves in the middle of one of the greatest secrets of World War II, and that is Britain's eccentric code-breaking factory at Bletchley Park. Jacob ends up joining Bletchley's top minds to crack the Nazi Enigma cipher, while his younger sister, 14-year-old Lizzie, has her own mission to solve, and that is the mysterious disappearance of their mother. But then these baffling messages and codes start arriving on their doorsteps, and a menacing inspector is lurking outside the gates of Bletchley Park. And the siblings must decide if these messages are truly for them or if they are a trap. And they also need to figure out if Enigma and their mother's disappearance are also connected. So this sounds like it could be a fun middle grade historical adventure novel, and I feel like there'll be a lot of kind of truth in this book, especially with one of the authors being a primarily nonfiction writer. So I'm excited to add this Bletchley Park book to my fall new releases that I'm excited about, and I will definitely be looking forward to this one coming out. All right, we are down to our last two books on this list. Next up is another romantasy to add to the list. This one written for kind of the new adult age group. There are two things that kind of caught my attention for this book. One was the cover, which you'll see here shortly, and the blurb, which was every firstborn child of the noble house bears a curse. There's so many different directions that you could go with that it made me read the synopsis, and now I'm excited to read the actual book. So the book comes out on November 19th and is called The Half King, and it is entitled this for a very good reason, which we will come to shortly. But first we need a little bit of background. So this book is set in a fantasy world where the Great Betrayal changed everything for the Allied realm. So long ago, the kingdom nobles' houses rose against the goddesses, and for their treachery, the firstborn of each noble family was cursed. The royal house of Mortara received the worst curse of all, where each firstborn is lost to the shadows forever on their 21st birthday. So now we're back to the present day. Cerise is a second-born daughter and has never ventured beyond the temple grounds, where she lives in service to the goddesses. But unlike her peers, she is a failure as an oracle. Her inability to foretell a single tragedy has brought shame upon her entire family. So everything changes, though, when she gets this opportunity to go serve the Half King. And the reason he is called the Half King is he's a young man who's able to rule by day, but then he turns into a shadow at sunset. The Half King is His Majesty Keon Hannibal Mortara. He is the firstborn son and thus bears his family's curse, which is to vanish completely upon their 21st birthday. Now it is up to Cerise to find a way to save him. And while she's doing this, she finds in him a kindred spirit, and his help discovers a startling revelation about herself. But this truth, this revelation, it also comes with a price. So you got curses, you got romance, you have a secret about the past of one of the main characters, and this just seems like a great start to a romantasy novel. I really want to know Cerise's secret, which was kept from her. And of course, if she is able to save the Half King from disappearing on his 21st birthday. I haven't read anything else from this author, though she seems to write a lot of science fiction books with romance as a subplot. I'll have to wait until November, though, to see if I enjoy her writing in this book. And if so, maybe I'll go check out some of her other books as well. All right, now we are on to the last book of my new fall release TBR list. And that is book 2 of the duology, The Secrets of the Nile by Isabel Ibanez. So the first book was What the River Knows, and I read it for my bookshelf scavenger hunt, and I ended up really enjoying it. It was an easy and fun read, and I enjoyed the two main characters of Inez and Wit, and I'm looking forward to kind of finding out how the story ends. The second book is Where the Library Hides, and I would guess it focuses immediately after the end of What the River Knows, just based on the way of how What the River Knows concluded. So this series is a historical fantasy series set in 1885 in Egypt. It's filled with adventure and a rivals to lovers romance, though in actuality, I don't feel like it was a strong rivalry before lovers book, if that kind of makes sense. Obviously, there's not much I can say about the plot of this book without ruining the plot of the first book, but let me just tell you a little bit about the main plot in the first book, which is that Inez ends up traveling to Egypt after her parents die, and she wants to solve the mystery of her parents' death. The magic doesn't play like a super strong part of the novel. It's a pretty simple magical setting where magic is infused in objects and can sometimes be passed on to those who touch the objects. In the first book, I do wish that magic had a little bit more of an important role to play. It is kind of central to the plot, but it isn't discussed much in the book. I would call the first book kind of a historical adventure novel with a side of fantasy to it. Either way, though, I do want to finish up this duology, see how the author ends up concluding this book, so I do look forward to the second book's release, which is on November 5th. Alright, so those are the 8 books that will be added to my new release jar for my TBR game, and I'm looking forward to reading all of these, obviously, or else they wouldn't be on this list. I hope that you found something of interest in at least one of these 8 books, though if you're not a fantasy reader, it may be a little bit harder. Either way, I appreciate you for watching this video, and I hope you are excited about fall as I am. Reading next to the fireplace, I can't wait to put sweatshirts on, catching up with all the fantasy and mystery books, and all the cozy kind of fall romance books. I am definitely so ready. So leave a comment below about what fall books, old or new releases, you're excited to read this coming season. And if you enjoy this video, please hit the like button. And if you want to see future videos by me, feel free to hit the subscribe button. My next video coming out after this one should be my Around the World Challenge video, which I'm kind of revamping a little bit and focusing more on the different book choices that you can choose for each country, and then kind of wrapping it up with which book I ended up choosing for that country. Again, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next video. Take care. Bye!